The Galaxy S23 Ultra, regarded as probably the best Ultra of all time by many out there, myself included. But how does it stack up against the S26 Ultra with where we are now? Let's find out. Let's go. The design of these is so polarizingly different. The Galaxy S23 Ultra is basically the old school Samsung in the truest sense of the word. Boxy corners, curved displays, curved glass at the back, rounded frame. It is effectively Samsung's older generation era. The Galaxy S26 Ultra is the complete opposite of what Samsung used to be about. They are now going with completely flat displays, flat metal sides. It's very, very different to where they used to be. Preference-wise, I still prefer this. I still like how the S23 Ultra feels in the hand. I like that the curved back and the curved front are symmetrical, and it's got the slightly rounded frame to sort of make it feel nice and comfortable. The squared off corners, I could take or leave it. I think aesthetically it looks better, but in hand comfort, the rounded corners definitely have that better appeal about it. But Samsung couldn't stay like that forever. A lot of the reasons why is those phones were quite thick and quite heavy. Samsung have sort of streamlined the whole design, gone for more minimal look, but also minimal in-hand feel too. The S26 Ultra is substantially lighter in the hand and a lot thinner too compared to the S23 Ultra. Overall, I think the design is an improvement because it's not just aesthetically a little bit different, but it's also got a little bit more comfort about it. But it loses a little bit of soul, a little bit of essence about what Samsung's original intentions were. The S23 Ultra had that pretty much Samsung approach, that curved slight glass at the front and the back. It was beautiful. I've still obviously got a bit of an affinity towards this phone, mainly because, well, it's the phone that launched this whole channel. That's from a design point of view. And I think I can actually speak for the display in the same breath as the design, because that curved glass gave the aesthetic to the display in a different way. It gave it that true, almost borderless-like appeal. Although in reality, the S26 Ultra, the bezels are much smaller and they're a lot more uniformed. You can see the difference between the bezels on the S23 Ultra having the chin be a little bit thicker versus the bezels on the S26 Ultra, which definitely are a little bit more consistent. Well, they are more consistent. They're literally symmetrical all the way around. And it is definitely thinner on the sides. But that curved panel gave the illusion that there was a little bit more going on, a little bit less going on even, with the bezels and the borders. Design and aesthetic of display aside, the actual display panel has improved too. Not just in the feature set, which I'll get to, but in the quality. Don't get me wrong though, for day-to-day stuff you'll be doing on your phone, like just looking at your home screen a lot, the display on the S23 Ultra is incredible. Watching regular YouTube content too, you're going to be absolutely fine with it. It's when you start to watch extra sort of content that has a bit more detail about it, the S26 Ultra just absolutely clears it. Take this video here that's got a lot of dynamic range. The S23 Ultra cannot produce it. You can see them side by side, many areas of the video where the S23 Ultra cannot reproduce the dynamically ranged area of the video, whereas the S26 Ultra absolutely has no problem, gives you the full array of colors and looks sensational. But that's just the viewing experience. There's also like other features too, which lend itself to the display being better. Most notably for me is the anti-reflective coating. I remember when Samsung brought it in with the S24 Ultra, comparing it to the S23 Ultra was quite jarring, and it's still just as jarring now. Having them side by side with the lights above them being shone on the phones, you can absolutely see a lot more of the reflections in the S23 Ultra versus the S26 Ultra. And then this year, Samsung brought in an extra feature that makes it even more separate, and that's privacy display. Now, this isn't necessarily a feature I would say is upgrade worthy, but it absolutely adds that extra bit of feature set to the display that some people might find useful. The fact you can just turn it on, and for the most part, you have a minimal hit to your display experience when you're looking at it straight on, especially. But then when you shift it to the side, it completely blacks it out for anyone who's trying to peer over your shoulder or look from an angle, is actual magic. You can just imagine if you're opening up sensitive information, like you're browsing your My Files app as one example, and you can just block that out. You don't experience any impact, realistically. You still get to view your files, but the person who maybe try to be peering in, they don't get to see a damn thing. So the design and the display experience is definitely different. Like, it's polar opposite to where we started. The S23 Ultra had the squared off corners and the rounded edges. Whereas we move forward to now, and the S26 Ultra obviously has the rounded corners, but the flat edges. Preference-wise, I don't know. It'll come down to what you prefer. Obviously, I think I prefer the squared off corners. That's just me, but some people might prefer the rounded ones. Speakers is another area, I guess, that will have shifted as well, going from a thicker body to a thinner one. Maybe it's taken a hit to speakers, but I'll let you decide, so take a listen. oneui 8.5 on the Galaxy S26 Ultra has a lot of cool tricks about it. Here are 5 hidden ones that you need to know. Let's go. With the launch of Galaxy S26 Ultra, 0.5 on the Galaxy S26 Ultra has a lot of cool tricks about it. Here are 5 hidden ones that you need to know. Let's go. With the launch of Galaxy S26 Ultra. And then, of course, we shift into cameras. And the camera experience has drastically changed too. On paper, you might not think that it has, considering you're going pretty much for the same 4 cameras, an ultra-wide, a main lens, a 3 times, and then another telephoto, but the experience of using them has drastically shifted. First, let's look at the hardware that is upgraded. The S23 Ultra, its ultra-wide camera was a 12-megapixel f2.2 aperture camera, dual-pixel autofocus, so it could support macro, but then it's shifted to a 50-megapixel ultra-wide with an f1.9 aperture, and that's also a slightly larger sensor, which should give you a better experience as well. The upgrade to this ultra-wide camera, not just in resolution, but aperture and also sensor size, does a couple of things. The first thing, obviously the aperture, it lets in more light. So the f1.9 versus f2.2, and the sensor upgrade as well, is going to allow more light to come through, giving you a brighter image. And you can see that when you compare some of the photos taken. The other thing it does too is the 50 megapixel resolution allows for, well, better resolution. And with the S26 Ultra this year, you can have 24 megapixel resolution as the default. And you can see that when, again, the photos are side by side, you can see that extra detail and resolution when you look at the photos. So that's the ultra-wide camera accounted for. What about the 1x? Well, on paper, it doesn't look like much. They're both 200 megapixels. They're both the same sensor size. But a big difference is the aperture. f1.7 on the 200 megapixel camera on the S23 Ultra, and then f1.4 on the 200 megapixel camera on the S26 Ultra. This does a couple of things as well as letting in more light. The low light photos will be a lot better thanks to the aperture being more open, allowing more light to pass through, but it also changes the makeup of how the sensor processes photos. Things like shutter speed, things like ISO, everything kind of gets rearranged because it doesn't have to work as hard to process light. Other things that are improved by this, it's got a better shutter speed, which means it's going to allow for better capturing of moving subjects. So, for example, my son playing football in the front yard, it's going to capture a better moment and have a better freeze frame because it doesn't have to work as hard again to let more light through. And the more open aperture gives it a more shallower depth of field. So when you're closer up to things or even further away from things, you're going to get a better depth of field, a more natural bokeh effect going on in the background. And again, you can see that. The 10 megapixel 3x camera is the same on both, at least in terms of numbers. There was talk of Samsung upgrading the sensor here, but all words are that they maybe made the sensor smaller, but the processing's better. So at least we've got that, but everything else is pretty much the same. The big change is the one right down the bottom. The 10x 10 megapixel f4.9 aperture telephoto lens on the S23 Ultra to the 50 megapixel 5x telephoto f2.9 aperture on the S26 Ultra. This is where the change has been made. It might look like the rest of the cameras have stayed the same, and here or there they have. This one's different though, by a lot. Not just in the sense that the aperture's better and the resolution's better, or even that the magnification length is shortened. It's the fact that the technology of the sensor is different too. But that's not here nor there. It's all about the output and what you can get from it. The 10x camera was great. It could take some great shots, but it needed conditions to be pretty much ideal and perfect because of the fact the sensor was a little bit smaller and also the aperture was smaller too. The 5x camera, I think just on a utility level, is better because 5x with better magnification is better than 10x. Because the gap from 3x to 10x on the S23 Ultra was too big. And that distance from that tiny 3x camera couldn't be made up very well. And you can see the difference at 5x magnification on both phones, how much better it is on the S26 Ultra. But I also think with the 50 megapixel resolution, it gives the 10x zoom better as well. Because of the fact you've got the f2.9 aperture, you've got better low light performance for zooming. And it just gives you that flexibility of range. There might be some instances where the 10x is just better on the S23 Ultra, but it's few and far between. I think you're more consistent out of the S26 Ultra because of the fact it has a better aperture and better processing behind it. And I think overall, the camera experience has been improved thanks to the camera upgrades that Samsung have put in here. There's a part that I find never gets included in camera comparisons, and often I'd miss out on this too, and that's the upgrade to the chip. That's a hardware change. It might not be a hardware change that you can physically see, but it absolutely changes how you can take photos and videos on your phone. The biggest upgrade it's allowed for with the S26 Ultra over the S23 Ultra is the upgrade to video capabilities. Don't get me wrong, the S23 Ultra was a great video camera, but the upgraded chip has allowed better performance and better features to be added, whether it be features like dual recording, which has replaced director's view, or whether you've got things like horizontal lock, which has been made in addition to super steady. It just gives you more flexibility when it comes to the types of things and the way you can capture them. But this year in particular, the chip upgrade has allowed for more professional grade video quality. Features like APV, that professional video codec, and then log video on top of that, where you can also add LUTs in as a preview, is just something the S23 Ultra is never going to be capable of doing because it just doesn't have the chipset to handle it. From an output sense, I think it's not really about that, to be honest. Yeah, you're going to get some better outputs, a more consistent output, better dynamic range here, better processing over there. But I think the main point here is the actual quality of life upgrades that the camera gets thanks to new hardware and new chip performance. That doesn't even account for the bigger resolutions across most of the sensors. You know, that also allows for 8K video from both the ultra wide and the 5x versus just the 1x on the S23 Ultra. Realistically, if you want to break down the camera simply, there's 3 upgrades to consider. Better zoom range, or more consistent zoom range, because the 5x gives you that. It's got better video capabilities thanks to the better chip, and the output is going to be more consistent across more scenarios, whether that be low light, whether that be sports photography. You now will have a better consistent output from the cameras versus what you did with the S23 Ultra 3 years ago. Had to do the math there. And that chip doesn't just touch the camera, it also improves performance. It's an easy win. The S26 Ultra has a ceiling of performance that the S23 Ultra will never get to. Not to say the S23 Ultra can't handle features. Some of the Galaxy AI features that exist on both, things like Notes Assist, actually get done in the same amount of time processing as what it does on the S26 Ultra, whether that be auto format, which I tried, or I also tried the summarize feature. The output in terms of time taken to process the summaries was the same on both. But the ceiling isn't there, so it misses out on some of the newer Galaxy AI features, things like Now Brief, things like Audio Eraser, things like Now Nudge. They're not going to make it down to the S23 Ultra. It's just not capable of handling that level of processing from an AI level. The rest of the performance of the phone, things like hardware to do with battery, whilst the capacities remain the same, I'm probably going to give the battery longevity the same on both. The S23 Ultra was a battery champion from my memory, and the S26 Ultra started strongly as well. So in that sense, even though the capacity is the same, it's actually still the same in terms of output. What's different though is charging. Samsung with the super fast charging 3.0 is quite impressive with the 60 watt versus the 45 watt, and it's definitely an improvement. But that ceiling is what I'm talking about, where things like video rendering, you can actually see the improvement of the processing, and it shows you at that higher level what your phone will be capable of and how long it can be capable of it for. But where we lose a lot with this comparison is what we had with the S Pen. It's the same as what I talked about with the S24 Ultra. The same feature set is lost. Speaking for myself personally, I never really used the Bluetooth functions too much. I occasionally would snap a photo, especially for low light stuff. It was great, but I never really used it too drastically. And now that I've got the watch, which has remote functionality for the camera, but also for PowerPoint presentations, I actually used it the other night at trivia, but I didn't capture any footage of it. It just worked. That aside, right, the pen should have Bluetooth function. Like, just give it back to us. I will abdicate for that. But the pen still functions like a pen. It still writes on the screen. It's still the exact same technology. The S23 Ultra's S Pen will work on the S26 Ultra's display and vice versa. You just lose out on that functionality, like being able to control the camera or being able to go back to home or take a screenshot. You don't get to do that anymore. Realistically, the upgrade pathways are quite simple. Lighter, slimmer body here for more ergonomic use cases, a more consistent and feature-rich camera system, which allows you to be more versatile with how you capture your moments, and an improved performance ceiling, whether it be for creative tasks like video rendering or AI tasks, it's got more depth to it because of the better chip and performance. Ultimately, that's the upgrade pathway, not even to mention things like the display that have been improved as well, but realistically, they're the crunching stuff that you should know about. If none of those or not enough of those are appealing to you, like it's just not there yet, then I would say just hold off. The S23 Ultra, you probably don't need to go out and upgrade from yet. Aside from having, I would say, Samsung's best design on an Ultra overall, not visually, the S21 Ultra still has that crown, but from a comfort and from a design point of view together, still is the best. And as for everything else this phone has got, that first gen 200 megapixel camera, Snapdragon chipset inside, I would say you've got at least another 2 to 3 years out of this phone before you might even need to consider it. I've got plenty of videos about this, so if you want to go back and check out how this phone held up from back then, go and find out, because there's a lot of tutorials, a lot of features you might still want to utilize if you're still using this. Otherwise, hit subscribe if you've upgraded, then this will be the place to be to find all out about this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. You!